or otherwise. That's in the future. But since it appears every 3 years, this was necessary last year and omitted.
Thank you.
Motion moved to vote.
I'd like to say something first.
Let me let her speak, and then we'll put it to the motion. She was on her way up, Kevin. Yes, identify yourself, please.
Deborah Jealousy.
Thank you.
The only issue I have is that the warrant article says they'll be open 20 hours a week. And anytime there's a holiday, they shut down and they're open for 3 hours that week. Because Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, that's their long day. So they're not open 20 hours a week.
Thank you. And actually, we did have a motion to move the vote. I have a motion to move the vote from Kevin Kay. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second from Pete Sanford. Probably going to try a show of hands on this one, I think, because I think I'm not sure how the voice will go. Okay.
Point of information?
Excuse me.
Point of information?
Yes.
If this is voted down, can we come back with an amended one?
We can reconsider.
Thank you.
Okay. We can reconsider at any time during the meeting. It does require 2/3 because I'm thinking we will have to fund this position at some point. So, yes.
As I said before, if this is voted down, you won't have any salary raise for a town clerk tax collector.
There you go.
Therefore, it should be amended first.
I've already called the vote. I think I've got to stand by that. Okay. This will be a show of hands. Article 4. Let me write something down first. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to compensate the combined office of town clerk, tax collector, and further to raise and appropriate $26,500 plus usual benefits and mileage given to town employees in lieu of all statutory fees. The salary shall cover all duties associated with the combined office and requires the office being open to the public at least 20 hours per week until the town shall vote otherwise. I'm going to probably come around and count, okay? All those in favor of Article 4 as read, please hold your cards up. Okay, I'm going to count, so keep up, please. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. On a hand count, 40 yes votes for the article, 13 no votes. Article 4 is passed. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $47,400 for the purpose of the 2016 reevaluation, of which $47,400 come from the reevaluation capital reserve, resulting in no cost from 2016 general taxation. So I can recommend this appropriation. Need a motion to accept this article as read? Motion. Pete Sanford.
Second it.
Questions, discussions, up to the microphone, please. Please state your name.
Tim Minier.
Thank you.
In the article, it says, what was it, the reserve fund? Or capital reserve fund? What's the title?
Reevaluation capital reserve.
There is no reevaluation, it's reappraisal. Should that be?
It's still revaluation.
I know, but the wording's different, so wouldn't that make a difference if you're taking money from an account that isn't there?
I mean, it's
We
still-
can,
I rewrote it.
if there is a discrepancy, we can certainly, change that.
I mean, I'm not, I just,
Wrong word.
Yeah, that's fine, if you wanna make a motion to rewrite it.
Is it just the wording?
yeah, it's just that wording. I just don't want you to take money out of something that doesn't exist and then,
Yep, they would have allowed it, but it makes you cleaner this way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Make a motion to amend.
Yeah, okay. We have a motion to amend the wording in this article, which is completely legal. We're dealing with the same subject, so it's not an issue. The motion to amend the article to read this way: to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $47,400 for the purpose of the 2016 reevaluation, of which $47,400 to come from the reappraisal capital reserve, resulting in no cost for 2016 general taxation. This motion for the amendment was brought forward by Tim Lanier. I need a second to accept it. A second, Paul Davis Sr. Okay, questions? Up to the microphone, please.
On page 23,
Hold on, let everybody get there.
about 5 lines up, on the reappraisal fund, it says we have 44,728 in there. Do we have an update?
All the way over. Step back just a step, Francis. I think it's just
That's
you.
the question answered.
Okay, I was gonna say all the way over, I see 49, 750, 758.
That's correct amount. That's the correct amount.
And that is the correct amount. Okay, any other questions or comments?
Sorry, Pete, I should-
Okay, we have to vote the amendment. We'll vote the amended article. This is the vote on the amendment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $47,400 for the purpose of the 2016 reevaluation, of which $47,400 to come from reappraisal capital reserve, resulting in no cost to 2016 general taxations. All in favor of this amendment as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed? Okay, amendment passes on a voice vote. Now we'll vote this as the amended motion. The amended article, Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $47,400 for the purpose of 2016 reevaluation, of which $47,400 to come from the reappraisal capital reserve, resulting in no cost, 2016 general taxation. All those in favor of the amended article as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those that are opposed? The ayes have it.
Oh, there it is.
Article 6. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $20,114 for the following health agencies and organizations. American Red Cross, 700, Bridge House, 2,000, Caddy, 1,000, CASA, $500, Genesis, $1,500. Grafton County Senior Citizens, $1,200. Mid-State Health Center, $1,216. Amanuset Community Health Center, $2,500. Henry Baker Community Health, $4,265. Tri-County Cap, $2,000. Visiting Nurse Alliance of New Hampshire, Vermont, $1,733. Voices Against Violence, $1,500. Need a motion to accept this article as read?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Pete Sanford.
I'll second.
A second from Chris Passon. Questions or discussions? Please up to the microphone. You come up, would you please identify yourself?
Marina Riley Collette.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a question because on page 59, the Mid-State Health Center states...
Hold on just a sec, let's get everybody to page 59. Okay, continue please.
That they're asking for a $210 contribution from the town. So why are we giving them $1,216?
I don't know. Let's see who's got Pete. Got an answer for that one?
That's gonna be a typo.
No, that's a pretty legitimate question, actually. Let's see what we can figure out from there. Page 59,
Hold on.
it's like the second sentence, actually.
Can we just take a...
Yep, we can take whatever you need to. You need a minute to sort that out?
We're gonna go and talk to her.
So last year we gave about the same amount, but we're thinking that that letter is a typo because we did give the same amount, but if you want to amend it, feel free.
Yes, do you wish to amend that amount, or are you?
Yes, I'd ask for a motion to amend.
Okay, whatever you'd like to amend, I'm going to need it in writing, please. If you need, I've got paper and a pen up here if you'd like to come up. Okay, motion to amend the amount going to Mid-State Health. And you changing that amount from the $1,216 that was listed in your town report to $210 that was requested in the letter. I need a motion to accept this amount as read.
Motion.
Motion, show me your hand please so I can see you. Motion, Charles Steele. Okay, I gotta write some of this down, so please bear with me.
Still gotta do a second. Oh, okay, sure.
And a second? I just need a second. I have to have a second so we can discuss it. Yeah, okay. Nope, I'll bring it up and then I'll put it all out there again, okay? Motion, Glenn? Okay. Second. Okay, gotta get it onto the floor so we can talk about it. Your question, Kay, was what exactly are we voting on? And the answer to that is, there's a nice lady that came up, Marina Riley Collette came up, and she pointed out that Mid-State, the amount listed in Article 6 shows here $1,216. In your town report on page 59, on the second line down, it says that they're requesting $210. What she has done is asked to amend only that amount. And that would change the amount, obviously, if we vote through everything, if this amendment for the Mid-State Health part of it passes. Okay, is everybody clear on that?
No.
Well, you're not, okay? If you're not, please stand up to the microphone and ask me, because I missed whoever it was. Mr. Muzzy?
If we're voting on an amended warrant article,
Yep.
we're voting on an amended amount.
We are.
And I'm asking, is that amended amount $19,108?
It would be probably if I dig my, we haven't voted on it yet. Right now, all I'm trying to do is square up the amount going to mid-state health.
The warrant article is the warrant article. The numbers are at the advantage of the selectmen, pretty much. They're doing what they want with those numbers, although in good faith, they probably do what they're saying. So the amended warrant article, as I see it, would be to appropriate the sum of $19,108 for the following health agencies.
As a total it would, I believe, if I was to set all that. I think, and maybe I'm wrong here, and maybe I am, but I think I would like to deal with just the sole amount for the mid-state health and at least discuss that part of it. Okay, and I could be wrong here.
You're not wrong.
Hmm?
You're not wrong.
Okay, all right, okay, it's up and it's on the table, discussion for that, Pete Santom?
So I just want to point out in the same paragraph, towards the end of it, that they also said that the residents of Wentworth received over $2,000 in free healthcare from Mid-State. Just to remind everybody.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please come up,
Just to provide counterpoint to that,
please.
in the same paragraph, they say that the amount that they're requesting represents approximately 10% of the charity care dollars provided, leading me to conclude that the amount requested of $210 is both correct and precisely what they wanted.
Very good. Okay, anybody else got any questions on any of this, or a statement to make? Okay, step up and please identify yourself.
Craig Pasco.
Okay.
Just want to, as an FYI, Mid-State just received a federal grant of over $300,000 to fight drug addiction and abuse.
Saw that myself on the news this morning, I believe. Okay, anybody else? Any questions? Okay, specifically, I'd like to deal with that amount. If that amount gets changed or whatever, then we'll go back and we'll make the corrected amount on the warrant article, because I get stuff spread everywhere. Okay. Is there anybody else got any questions on this or statements to make? Okay, all we're voting on is solely the 210 on the mid-state health amount. Okay, is everybody clear with that? Okay. Motion to amend, this is it, the motion is to amend the amount to Mid-State Health Center to $210 as requested in the letter. All those in favor of amending the amount of $210 to $210 to Mid-State Health, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed? Aye. Okay. In that case, we're going to change the amount. Give me a second.
18,124.
18,124?
That's so.
No? I'm getting a yes and a no.
All right.
Hold on.
He's going to calculate.
Who's going to calculate? All right. Let's make sure we at least get the amount correct this time.
19,904.
I'm good with that? Okay.
That's what I wanted.
Okay. Pete Sanders was kind enough to pull his calculator up. Do you have a question, Kate? You need to come up, or are you just standing? Okay. Okay. Gonna make a motion on the amended article. And then if that passes, we'll do the amendment and we'll do the amended article. Okay, now it would all read like this. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $19,904 for the following health agencies and organizations.
Disagree.
Okay, what do you got? Stand up, please. Come on up. What do you got?
If you're reducing,
Oh, I did it wrong, yeah.
Okay?
if you're reducing that by you're gonna raise $210,
Yep.
you are reducing the budget warrant article by $1,006.
Okay.
1,000 from 20 is 19,
I know.
and $6 from 114 is 108. 19,108.
Let me scratch that out. 19,108. Okay? Are we all in agreement with that figure? Okay? Give you the chance to add, Pete. Are you still
I'll
adding?
put you in.
Just make sure we,
He didn't go there.
Yep, 19,108.
19,108. Okay, we all,
Thank you, Francis.
okay, you have a comment real quick? Please state your name.
Alexandria Rodriguez.
Okay?
Is it true that we're cutting $2,500 from the Genesis mental health request from last year?
I have no idea.
I'm sorry if I'm messing up the numbers, but in their letter, they said we donated them $4,000 in fiscal year 2015, but we have listed $1,500 as our donation compared to a request of $4,000. I was wondering if there was an explanation behind that?
Well, let's take a second and,
Which one is it?
okay, she's looking at, I believe page 60.
Which,
Actually, page 61 at the bottom shows, Town of Wentworth allocation for 2015 was 4,000. Genesis requested 4,000 this year, and we have appropriated
You said that's all we want to give them.
1,500.
Mr. Moderator, any answer?
Hold on just a sec.
I just want to point of interest. If you look on page 12 where we voted last year for the health
Yes.
Yeah.
centers and all that,
Yep.
we voted in $1,750 last year, not $4,000.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anybody else before I get lost? Okay. Gonna vote the amendment. We'll work on an amended article. Amendment now reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $19,108 for the following health agencies and organizations. I'm going to read them through because they've changed. American Red Cross, 700. Bridge House, 2,000. Caddy, 1,000. CASA, 500. Genesis Mental Health Care, 1,500. Grafton County Senior Citizens, 1,200. Mid-State Health Center, 210. Amanuset Community Health Center, 2,500. Hemi Baker Community Health, $4,265. Tri-County CAP, $2,000. Visiting Nurse Alliance of New Hampshire, Vermont, $1,733. Voices Against Violence, $1,500. All those in favor of this amendment as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed? Okay, the amendment passes.
19-1.
Okay, the amended article now reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $19,108 for the following health agencies and organizations. I'll read it one last time so we're all sure. American Red Cross, 700. Bridge House, 2,000. Caddy, 1,000. CASA, 500. Genesis, 1,500. Grafton County Senior Citizens, 1,200. Mid-State Health, 210. Amanuset Community Health Center, 2,500. Henry Baker Community Health, 4,265. Tri-County CAP, 2,000. Visiting Nurse Alliance of New Hampshire, Vermont, 1,733. Voices Against Violence, 1,500. All those in favor of the amended article as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those are opposed. Ayes have it. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,500 to be expended by the planning board in connection with its activities for such purposes and such uses as deemed necessary by the planning board. A motion to accept this is read. Motion, Francis Muzzy. Second, Paul Davis Jr. Questions or discussions? Comments? Okay, Article 7. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,500 to be expended by the planning board in connection with its activities for such purposes and such uses as deemed necessary by the planning board. All those in favor of this article as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed? No. Ayes have it. Article 8, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $32,870 for the maintenance of the fire department for the ensuing year. Of that amount, $860 to come from the unassigned balance, $32,010 to come from 2016 general taxation. Need a motion to accept this article as read. Motion, Jeff Ames.
Second.
And a second from Paul Davis Sr. Questions and comments, please. Come on up.
It's kind of just a generic question, but this is the first article that it's used in. Why did we go from unreserved to unassigned? Is that a legal thing now, or is that just somebody changed the wording?
Let me see if I can.
So the DRA just changed the name.
The DRA apparently just changed the name. That's the answer I have from our town administrator. Yes, state your name.
Patty Welch.
Thanks.
I'd like to amend this article to read $34,870 with an extra $2,000 going towards firefighters' pay.
Okay, you understand you cannot direct where that money goes?
Yes, I
You can
do.
request?
I can
Okay.
request it, that's what I wanted
Okay,
to
you have
know.
it, you have that ready?
I do.
They want to, it's just like volunteers.
Have an amendment to Article 8. It reads thusly, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $34,870 for the fire department. Of that amount, $860 would come from the unassigned fund balance. The remainder to come from general taxation. The extra $2,000 a request to go towards the pay for each fire member. I have that motion from Patty Welch.
I'll second it.
Second, Chris, is that you?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Can you clearly explain where the money,
Yep, I'll explain anything I can. If I can't, I'll try to find you the answer.
can you clearly explain where the money is going to be going now? I wasn't quite able to understand that.
Oh, I'm sorry. The extra money that she's added?
Yes.
Yes, I can. Make sure, Jeff, could you come up? Can I ask the chief to join me as well?
Thanks, Steve.
What she has requested is an extra $2,000. Although she cannot direct where the money goes, it can be requested, and usually anytime that happens, the departments be it police, fire, town, whatever, tend, because it's good politics, to go with the request of the people. That extra 2,000 would probably be broken up. I think the fire department has 15 active members right now, and that would go towards incentive pay. Most of the money, actually, maybe, we're gonna have the chief explain this a little bit, but I can.
Many years ago, we did incentive pay for the firefighters. It really amounts anywhere from $150 per member up to $300 per member, depending on how many hours they're putting in, et cetera, et cetera. We would look at this and say, yes, we would take that extra 2,000 and increase that pay to the firemen. That's what it would be used for. If that's what the recommendation of the floor wants, then we certainly would go with those wishes.
All right, so it's incentive pay.
It is.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Come on up, please state your name.
John Meade.
Thank you.
On the incentive pay, as I'm reading this right now, it's listed that this year's 2,900. We're increasing it by 500 in the 2016 budget. Am I reading this correctly?
I have no idea.
Okay.
How's that?
That is correct.
That is correct.
So what's basically being asked for is we're almost at this point going up by an 80% increase. Is that correct?
According to those two figures.
Okay.
I would assume so.
And how is the pay that you're talking about, is that for a call out? How do you actually pay you?
We have the chief come back up, and I'll have him explain that a little better for you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
It is based on the amount of trainings, the amount of calls, and the amount of time spent. So, in other words, admin duties, etc., all come into play in that. So it would be, the new incoming 2,000 would be dispersed equally across that board. So each member would see an increase. We put the $500 increase in there because we had three new members join the department recently. So we increased it to that 500. Now we're being asked to increase again, which is fine by me. It's going to probably equate to each member getting, an extra $200 or $300.
Jeff, just quickly.
Up to the microphone, please, so everybody can hear him, please. Well,
I think I can answer this question.
Oh, okay.
Just one. What is it basically? How many hours are you putting in right now? Are these folks getting $1 an hour?
No, not even close.
Not even close.
5, 10,
Wait,
under minimum wage by all means, and not even $1.
That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, state your name.
Penny Davis.
Thank you.
I am actually the wife of one of our firefighters, and I will tell you that it's a pain in the ass a lot of times, plain and simple. The first and third Wednesday night of every month, I can do nothing. My husband's a fireman. We have certain members of the fire department that cannot attend their meetings. They have to have adequate training time as well as everybody else. So my husband has to go on a Sunday, give up our Sunday, which is basically the one day a week we usually take off, and spend it 4 or 5 hours training a firefighter. We go to bed relatively early, 9 o'clock in the evening or whatever. That radio goes off at 11 o'clock at night. It isn't just him that's getting out of bed, believe me. It's me too. He may be out till 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't matter to his employer. He gets up and goes to work the next morning, but he's been up all night fighting fire and on. If you average out the amount of time that my husband spends donating to the Wentworth Volunteer Fire Department, as compared to his severance pay, or whatever you want to call it, that he gets at the end of the year, he's not even making 5 cents an hour. So if people want to put that in perspective, how many of you would get out of bed at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, from a dead sleep to a dead run, for less than 5 cents an hour? Let me tell you, there's very few people, because there's very few people in this meeting, and there's very few people of our younger generation that are volunteering at our fire department. So I think that's a very small amount of money, less than 5 cents an hour. Not to mention that every time they do call, get on a call and enter these buildings, their life is also at risk.
Thank you. Yes?
Francis Muzzy, if you think this department is not worthy of that little amount of money, I'm ashamed of you. There is no department that does any more than our fire department in this town. Because you think they fight just fires? They're out there cutting trees off the power line, which is not necessarily the best thing to do, but they do it anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Davis?
I don't think I've heard any dissent on this thing. I think we're all pretty appreciative of our fire department, so I'd like to move the vote.
Okay, can we do some quick math? Make sure I get the right amount. All right, going to vote the amendment. We'll vote the amended article. Amendment reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $34,870 for the maintenance of the fire department for the ensuing year. Of that amount, $860 to come from the unassigned fund balance and $34,010 to come from the 2016 general taxation. All those in favor, again it was stated, the extra $2,000 to be used for pay for each of the fire members. Again, that part, so we all know, would be up to the discretion. Anyway, all those in favor of the amended article as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. The amendment passes. I'm going to vote the amended article now.
Waive the reading.
Excuse me?
I waive the reading.
I'll read it anyway. Thanks, you're the best. Okay, now reads to see if the town will vote to raise, the amended article now reads to see the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $34,870 remains to the fire department for the ensuing year. That amount, $860, comes from the unassigned fund balance, and $34,010 to come from 2016 general taxation. All those in favor of the amended article, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed? The ayes have it. And in an unprofessional moment, as a firefighter in this community, thank you. It means a lot to us. Article 10. Yeah, 9, I saw that. Don't worry. Thank you, Don. Glad you're all paying attention. This Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of refurbishing the pump on the 1997 International Fire Truck. Replacement cost for this truck ranges in the $300,000 range. This pump refurbish should give the town another 10 to 15 years of service. I need a motion to accept this article as read. Motion, Jeff Ames. And a second from all sorts of people. Ryan DuBois. Just had to do that, Paul. Questions, discussions, comments? Anybody like to know anything? Mr. Ames, you want to come up here? Apparently we have a question. Please state your name.
Marina Riley Collette.
Thank you.
All right, so $10,000 for refurbishing the pump, and the estimated lifespan, the service life extension is going to be 10 to 15 years. How is that calculated or considered?
Basically, from the time a truck comes into town, whether it's used or new, once a year we're required to send that truck to have a pump test. The truck's looked at, evaluated, and then a specific test is done through those pumps. Based on the fact that the truck is almost 20 years old, for the last previous 3 or 4 years, we've seen a decrease in pump capability on that particular unit. So based on those numbers and those years, we feel that we can get that kind of time again out of that pump.
All right. How are fire trucks normally funded? How's the replacement normally funded?
Usually it's funded through the taxpayers. We do a capital reserve funding as well. Next to last new fire truck that we received, we did through the FEMA grant process. It was a $225,000 truck. We received that truck in and it cost the town $11,000. So if we was to go for a new truck again in the future, we would probably look at those same grants and then come to the town with whatever remaining.
Do we have a process to basically save up the town's money for buying new fire trucks? Because my concern is that, well, I wholeheartedly support this, that if there's any issue in ultimately going into debt, that's a long-term bad thing.
I can answer that for you.
Yeah.
If you look on page, I don't think I'm going to go that far. I think I can look at page 7 for starters. Oh, maybe I got the wrong year here, do I? Nope, I don't. Look on page 7, you'll see the first thing there is a fire truck, which is a capital reserve fund.
$15,000.
$15,000, that gets put in each year, and further on, I can't pull the page up for you, but there's amounts that would show you how much is in. And I know the last truck that was purchased, page 23.
It's our warrant article 16 this year.
If you look on page 23, under fire truck, under the capital reserves, as of 12/31/15, there was $46,086.82 in that fund. Because we purchased the truck 2 years ago, and we're starting to add, the town has been adding money back in, so when it comes time to replace, not only is it fire trucks, but other town equipment as well, that's what gets done.
All right. Do we have any guarantee from whoever will be doing the work on the pump that it will last for the specified period of time, or is it standard practice to do this kind of repair?
It is standard practice. When a pump starts showing signs of normal wear, then you would refurb the pump to bring that back to spec. And it certainly has to meet a certain specification by underwriters' laboratory standards and NFPA standards. So basically all we're trying to do here is get some more years out of this truck, cost the town less money in doing so, and moving forward with the program. Yes, there is no way that anybody's going to give it a 10-year guarantee. They'll do a normal, probably, this is off the top of my head, not coming from the company that would do it. Usually what they do is like a 90-day warranty on parts labor. If something that they did wrong in rebuilding that pump fails, then they'll take care of that.
All right, and I just have to comment that I encourage the fire department to test the pump vigorously during those 90 days. Other than that, I wholeheartedly support the proposal.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions, comments, statements? Up to the microphone, please, state your name. You have a question for the chief?
In general, Doug Campbell. I just wanted to talk about the truck itself a little bit. I take it the overall truck doesn't see a lot of abuse, not as much as the pump. The pump is probably the thing that sees the most wear and tear, so that's the thing that would be most worthwhile fixing or repairing, and the rest of the truck is probably still in pretty good shape, correct?
That's correct. Body-wise, mechanical engine-wise, the base running gear of the vehicle is in decent shape. That also gets looked at for part of the evaluation. It's the pump. It boils down to the fact that, like I said earlier, the past 4 years or so, we've seen the gallons per minute rated drop off, and boy, we need to do something with that. Right. Or buy a new fire truck. This
So-
seems to be the,
So an equivalent, it's kind of like if you have an engine that's starting to get weak and stuff like that, but the body and the transmission and all that's in good shape.
seems to be.
It seems to be something that would be a good idea if you just get a rebuilt engine.
Correct.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of refurbishing the pump on the 1997 International Fire Truck. Replacement cost of this truck ranges in the $300,000 range. This pump refurbish should give the town another 10 to 15 years of service. All those in favor of Article 9 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, guys have it. Let's take 15 minutes. Got the 8th grade in the back room, or the back of the room. See you all about between 15 and 20 after. Okay, Article 10. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $450,000 of the Highway Department for the ensuing year, of which $80,000 is to come from the paving capital reserve, $53,800 to come from the unassigned fund balance, an offset of approximately $25,182 to come from the state highway block grant aid, and the remainder to come from 2016 general taxation. Selectmen recommend this appropriation. Majority vote required. Need a motion to accept this article as read?
I'll make motion.
I'll second it.
Motion, Pete Santo. Second, Chris.
Yep.
What is the actual amount we're raising?
Well, you hold on, let me finish writing, I'll see what I can do about that.
I got it.
Pete? Okay, just kind of a quick statement here.
Your question about the actual amount we're raising, I did a math on this, it comes out to $291.18.
Do you use the same calculator you used today?
I did, I did it long here this time, just to make sure.
Okay, Oh, yeah, there we go. Okay, if you have a question or a comment, please up to the microphone and state your name and get up there. Let's just stick around. Okay, thank you.
Kenny Davis, I'm
Yes.
just wondering what we're paving.
Excuse me?
What we're paving.
What we're paving?
We're not, we're using it to maintain paved roads that we paved recently, like the additional road project.
To seal the roads or whatever?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
State your name.
Jim Manier.
Thank you.
Kind of a long statement, hope you got a minute.
Yep.
All I could do is go back to 2005. Since then, the town of Wentworth has received $631,985.40 from the state of New Hampshire in highway block grant monies. Other than the money listed in the town treasurer report as revenue from the state, it has not been listed, added, or deducted from any highway department budget except last year and this year. Where is all that money? And what has it been being used for? I mean, you're talking, you know, I mean, you're only showing 25,000 this year, but last year's money was 60,000, almost 61,000.
All the government money.
Your question is, where has the money, where is the money?
Why is it listed?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, where is it and
Okay.
what's it being used for?
Okay. Is this a question you can answer? Okay, you can. Mr. Muzzy, as a previous selectman, I'm assuming that, is something you can field to, I'm certainly, we'd all listen.
When dealing with the tax rate of the town, the Department of Revenue Administration asked, how much did the town authorize to raise in taxes and spend in money? From that, they subtract income that the town gets, some of which is road grants, some of, you name it, whatever we get for money coming in is subtracted from the appropriation figure, and that is what the DRA says we need to raise in money. In past years, the block grants have been put into the unreserved fund balance, and later when DRA walks in, they look at that and subtract that automatically to determine how much money has to be raised. It was said at one of the meetings, I wasn't privy to the actual information that came in, that they want this reported a different way now, and so you said that at one meeting that this was being raised and was shown in the warrant article, whereas in previous years it just went straight into the unreserved fund balance. That's basically the only difference, but I think now it becomes more obvious to you and it's probably better.
Yeah, what? That didn't tell me anything.
Okay, I believe his statement, correct me if I'm wrong, was that that money ended up in the unreserved fund balance, is that correct? No, it's not.
It's never been listed on the highway department budget from the town since 2005, except last year and this year's report. And we're only talking almost $48,000 out of $631,000.
Okay.
I mean,
Mr.
and
Davis.
according to the highway block grant from New Hampshire DOT, boldly stated, the funds can only be used in construction, reconstruction, and maintenance. So if it goes into a general fund, then that's not appropriate.
Okay, let me see if we can do that. Steve?
2 years ago, our county gas, to stay compliant with gas fee county rules, said that along with DRA requesting that we put that money, it's used, the Green Belt verifies this property use, we cannot spend the money on anything except the highway. To go along with that, the ERA then asked us to change the wording on the warrant to reflect the fact that we received those funds from the state. So it's an accounting principle, it's a DRA requirement, the money is used on the roads, and it's showed in the warrant that that's where it's used. That's all I can tell you. I'm not a CPA.
Where do you assume it went?
I'm sorry?
Where do you assume it went? And if it
I have
didn't go
no
in the
idea.
road?
That's why I'm asking. It's never been it's never been deducted. Just to make it simple, if the highway department budget's $100 and DOT gives you $20, shouldn't the budget for the highway department be $80? Yes, because you get 20 from the state. Well, since 2005, we received $631,000. And the only monies you've shown being deducted for a grand total of $47,000.
Okay,
I mean,
couple of things, okay? Understand your questions, pretty much. Know where you're coming from on it. At this point, and for right now, our discussion is for Article 10.
correct,
Okay?
which shows
I
highway
can't-
block grant funds being
Which
expended. That's my question.
does show apparently where the block grant money is going, okay? I believe that it's great that it got brought up, I think everybody needs to be aware of it, but at this point, our discussion is for Article 10. I think that your question would be best brought up at the end of the meeting on that particular part to see, because this goes into past bookkeeping. And well, the thing is, I understand where you're coming from. But at this point, our discussion is for this particular article.
Article 10, which includes highway block grant
It
funds.
does, but it doesn't take into account past years of that, would be my thing. If you got something to say, Francis, come up with the microphone, please.
What your road budget shows on whatever page it is in the book, I just closed the book now, does not show anything other than expenses. It doesn't show any incomes. That's on another page in the book under the treasurer's report.
That's right.
And so you don't really see the total picture unless you look at expenses and incomes from other sources. And DRA does that when they come in October thereabouts to set the tax rate. They look at expenses, what you got for income to cover it, and they do the subtraction. A lot of it's not clear, even after you know what's happening.
Okay, thank you. Yep, you can.
If you want to, contact our accountants, they were listed on page 38 of the book, and you can contact them and ask them about it. I mean, they have to look over everything they've approved for our budget. Their phone number's on it.
Okay. Something else or anybody else? Okay. Article 10. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $450,000 for the highway department for the ensuing year, of which $80,000 to come from the paving capital reserve, $53,800 to come from the unassigned fund balance, an offset of approximately $25,182 to come from the state highway block grant aid, and the remainder to come from 2016 general taxation. The selectmen recommend this appropriation, majority vote required. We'll try a voice vote. If it doesn't work, I'll have to do a show of hands. All those in favor of Article 10 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed?
No.
Let's do a show of hands. I think that passed, but I want to see a show of hands. Okay, Article 10. If you are in favor of this article, hold your cards up. I'm going to come around and count just to be sure. Take all this around. Thank you. All that are opposed, please hold your cards up. Thank you. Must be the voices that throw me. On a show of hands, 46 yes, 7 no, Article 10 is passed. Article 11. See if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to continue the 5th year of the 5-year lease agreement for the purpose of leasing a 2812 International plow truck for the highway department, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $33,345 for the 5th and final year's payment for this purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause, majority vote required. Need a motion to accept this article as read?
I'll make a motion.
Second it.
Pete Santa. The second, Chris? A comment?
Yeah,
Please.
Just want to say that this article and the next one are, we're required to put them up every year by DRA, so you'll see them every year from now on out.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions, comments? Up to the microphone, please. Pete, come on back, please. Questions? Hold on, he wants to grab his book.
I just have one comment, it isn't even book. Obviously, these are expensive vehicles it's town owns. And I do have a problem, I don't have a problem with appropriating money, we need trucks to do the work that's being done. But I do have a problem when I have a town truck going up by my house at 50 miles an hour with plow bouncing off the road. I've addressed our road agent before about the trucks slowing down. There's absolutely no reason on these back roads for these trucks to be going this fast. I mean, when the plow literally is up in the air and bouncing off the road so that you can literally sit in my door and see sparks coming off the plow, that is absolutely ridiculous to treat any piece of equipment that way.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Marina Riley Collette. What is the rationale for leasing instead of purchasing these trucks?
Hold on.
Here is the biggest.
Mr. Davis?
With the current financial climate, when we were looking at purchasing the truck, we would have to raise all the money. We didn't have anything in the town budget for that. We had to lease to stay within the budget. We did that. It's a better deal, actually, to leasing financial-wise than it is to outright purchase it, because you'd have to capital reserve fund, which we did not have. So we made a decision based on a couple of purchases, it's a better financial solution. Same reason I lease my truck instead of buying a new one every 4 years. We get a new truck every 3 years.
My sister at least worked in Toyota leasing for cars and trucks, and it was the universal opinion that the people doing so are getting soaked. And the economics of leasing is universally against the lesser, by far the most sensible way for the town to go about the maintenance of these vehicles would be to save up and buy them outright, preferably fully in cash. And I think that if there is a claim that the economics favor leasing the vehicle, that this needs to at some point be justified, because I would be extremely dubious of the notion that on a short-term basis, the lease may look attractive, but it will never work out economically in the longer term. And it does also encourage disrespect of the vehicles. The prior commenter made that note, and people who lease things and are operating leased equipment will never maintain it or operate it in the same way as something that they're actually responsible for. Thank you.
I will say we have maintenance records for every one of our vehicles, the backhoe, the grader, the trucks, the 450, and we inspect those records to make sure the maintenance is done on a regular basis. The reason we went with a lease and we decided as a town to do this, and this is the second year we voted on this, was because we didn't want to have the cash, we needed to have the trucks. And we didn't want to have a huge impact on the taxes, so we spread it out over 7 years. For the taxpayers, maybe individually, but for taxpayers in this town, it's a lot better deal than going out and coughing up $250,000 every time you get another truck.
That would be a matter of dispute, because in the longer term, the costs will only rise.
Chris, statement?
Yes, I would agree only that that might be on original wear and tear of a vehicle. These aren't regular vehicles. The wear and tear on these vehicles is a lot. Salting, sanding, all the roads that they go on. It is definitely saves us a lot of money. When they need to be fixed, they go right back. Lease covers most of that kind of stuff. We're saving a lot of money. Toyota and little cars, that might be one thing, but this isn't what we're talking about. We're talking about big vehicles, a lot of wear and tear, and this does save us money.
Thank you. Please step up and identify yourself.
John Beatty.
Thank you.
Addressing the 2012 International, if I'm not mistaken, this truck was broken last town meeting. My understanding now, this truck is broken again this town meeting.
I can't answer that. We'll see.
No, that's a typo. That's 2015.
Can you please stand up here and so everyone can hear you?
Is that a typo? Is it 2012 still? Okay, no, that isn't one that broke down.
I was told the International was broken.
Well, we bought another International. We had one that failed, and we replaced it with a Freightliner.
Yeah, last year, or year before.
No, I don't think so. I think last year, because actually if you read the road agent's report, he refers to having the International out of service for 8.5 weeks.
Oh, yes.
My understanding right now, Steve, is I believe it's broken again.
That was all warranty coverage. Yes, it is.
Okay, when they do a warranty coverage, my question is does the town get a new vehicle or a replacement vehicle?
No.
Because what happens here is he's saying that he's beating the hell out of other pieces of equipment because he doesn't have this unit. And it's, according to what I'm reading here, we're voting to actually renew the lease on this piece of equipment. So my next question is we have an escape clause. Do we have to pay a penalty in the escape clause?
The escape clause is what we're doing right now. If we decide we don't want the truck, we just don't make the payment, they come get the truck.
Well, I understand they have the truck. So my question is the 2012 International, is it a lemon? And are we constantly paying for it? And I guess it should probably be put to the road agent or where we're at. I'm just asking about this particular truck.
I wish he was here.
Okay, that's all. Okay, thank you.
We had a whole power change out, and that was an extensive rebuild that cost over $40,000. That was covered by International.
My understanding my understanding is the turbo is blown in this vehicle now, and this is down again.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's just, and it's gonna be scuttlebutt, but that's.
It has been down for a few days, you're right.
Okay, it is, yeah.
It will be,
It appears, and I believe last town meeting, I was at this same truck was in trouble then.
Yeah.
So it seems like we've got kind of a lemon on our hands. My only comment, thank you.
Thank you. Next, please, state your name.
Charles Dana.
Thank you.
I see that we're in leases for both of these vehicles currently, and I think that we should continue with those leases.
Okay.
I do personally agree that we shouldn't be leasing them, and I just want to throw a note in here that anybody that agrees with me, I'm going to be amending the capital reserve article when we get there to address that in the future.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Please identify yourself.
Francis Leslie.
Thank you.
To reiterate and confirm what Penny has already said, I wish that somewhere along the line, the selectmen would stand up and take notice of the fact that our vehicles are being abused. And it doesn't stop with the internationals. As an example, we bought several years ago a broom to sweep the roads with. There is a process. I got on the internet and found out how to sweep a road. Could I do it? No. But I found out how. And you don't put the damn thing down on the ground just as high as you can and hope it sweeps all the dirt away. That wears out the broom. You don't drive 15 miles an hour. That's too fast and they can't sweep it up that fast. There's a speed, somewhere around 5 miles an hour as I recall, you're supposed to do it. This vehicle went by my road and I didn't hardly more than blink, and it was already gone by. They're doing everything too fast, putting into reverse, not waiting for the vehicle to stop and going into forward gear. Those are just some of the things I've witnessed.
Point of order off topic.
None of that, sorry.
Point of order off topic.
Not off topic.
Yeah, I'm
Penny Davis. It says the fifth and final year's payment for the purpose of the lease. I was just wondering what we planned on doing at the end of the lease. We plan on turning the truck back in, getting another new one? Do we plan on buying out the lease? What are the selectmen's thoughts now about, because this will be the final year of this lease?
I don't care after 2 hours from now.
two other people will be on curious about that, so I'm thinking. Chris, please.
so basically what we're gonna do is we were gonna talk to the town road agent and just get his views, what he thinks, how many years he thinks we have or don't have. At that point, we'll decide, again, we'll come, whether we're gonna lease one or outright buy it. Obviously, we don't have all that money in the fund right now.
What would be the buyout, does the town even know?
I don't know if we have the figure now, because it's next year, so I'm not 100% sure. But we are gonna look at that. And we're gonna ask him, just like Jeff Ames said, you know, is this truck worth keeping? Is it roadworthy, this and that? We're gonna go over that next year and come up with what he says.
You'll own it, too.
Anybody else? Okay.
It's a lease purchase.
Article 11. To see if the town will vote to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to continue the 5th year of a 5-year lease agreement for the purpose of leasing a 2012 International plow truck for the Highway Department, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $33,345 for the 5th and final year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause, majority vote required. All those in favor of Article 11 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed? The ayes have it. Article 12. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to continue the 2nd year of the 7-year lease agreement for the purpose of leasing a 2014 Freightliner dump/plow truck for the Highway Department, to raise and appropriate the sum of $24,679 for the 2nd year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause, majority vote required. All those in favor, I need a motion to accept Article 12 as read. Motion, Pete.
Second.
Questions or discussions? Okay. Article 12, to see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to continue the second year of the second-year lease agreement for the purpose of leasing a 2014 Freightliner dump/plow truck for the highway department, to raise and appropriate the sum of $24,679 for the second year's payment for that purpose. This lease agreement contains an escape clause, majority vote required. All those in favor of Article 12 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed? The 12 passes. Article 13, to see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the existing Bridge Expendable Trust Fund established in 2006 for the purpose of repairing and/or rebuilding Saunders Hill Road Bridge, Evans Bridge, and Newfort Bridge, to now be for the purpose of repairing and/or rebuilding town-owned bridges, and to continue to appoint the selectmen as agents to expend from this fund. This requires a 2/3 majority vote, so we're going to have to count everybody. Need a motion to accept Article 13 as read?
Make a motion, Mr. Moderator.
Motion, Steve Davis.
Second.
Second. Comments? Mr. Davis?
This is a housekeeping warrant having to do with stranded funds. We had monies left after the Newfort Evans and Silver Bridge rebuilds, and we have one more, plus two actually, down on Preston Road, just before the moderator's house and on the other side. We have money in the funds. I believe we could use it without this warrant article, but this is to clarify it so that we can use it, and there should be enough money in what's left to pay our 20% matching funds to fix those two crossings. So this would just allow the next Board of Selectmen to work easily with the Nancy Mayville, them to DOT and the rest of them to get this process through. We've already obligated the town to pay for the engineering, get an engineering bid for the engineering, so.
Okay, anybody else? Questions, discussions?
Paul Davis. Is this gonna be all bridges like Martin Brook and Nichols Hill and Ellsworth Hill, and I see there's just a few of the bridges, only 3 bridges.
Going forward, Mr. Davis, it can be used for that, to keep the fund open. We can add to that, Martin's, Ellsworth, all the ones that are left. We've gone through all of them. The only red list we've got, bridge we have left, is down the Fresco crossing.
Yeah, I understood that, but I was just curious, is this gonna cover any and all the bridges?
Yes.
In the town of Wentworth,
Yes.
from this date on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Francis Muzzy, if you look on page 23 in the trust funds, you will find that there's approximately $95,000 in the Bridge Capital Reserve Fund. As it is right now, under the present way that fund was set up, that $95,000 is totally useless to the town. Because it has a purpose for Evans Bridge, Saunders Hill Bridge, and one other. And if it has no purpose anymore, we might as well assign it to some purpose and putting it into another bridge fund, either specifically or jointly, I'd be in favor of. There is one thing I do have some reservations about that though, and that being an expendable fund means the selectmen can spend it at any time without the town even knowing about it.
Thank you. Comment?
I know what you're saying, but we don't do anything without anybody knowing about it. We do a public meetings and comment and public input. Just like when you and I served on board together, Francis, had an expendable fund, and we need to have that so we can keep these bridge projects going. Not going back to the vote of the town every every March. Okay?
Anybody else? State your name, please, sir.
Craig Pasco.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that statement, public input, that might be 2 or 3 people from the public at a selectmen's meeting.
They
Meeting
publish.
after meeting.
It's published though.
Okay.
Anybody can show up.
Anybody else? Okay, oh, okay. Do you want me to bring that back to you?
I think I can speak.
I'll bring it back. Hold on. Let me see if I can get back that far with it. I don't know if it'll work or not.
I think I can speak loud enough. I want to know if this bridge fund is for vehicular traffic bridges only.
Is it for vehicular traffic bridges only?
That is absolutely correct. It's the only thing it can be used for. No other purpose. Vehicular traffic bridges only.
Anybody else? Okay, gotta do a show of hands, folks, okay? Any end of the discussion, actually, I'm sorry. Okay, Article 13, to see if the town will vote to change the purpose of the existing Bridge Expendable Trust Fund established in 2006 for the purpose of repairing and/or rebuilding Saunders Hill Road Bridge, Evans Bridge, and Dufort Bridge, to now be for the purpose of repairing and/or rebuilding town-owned bridges, and to continue to appoint the selectmen as agents to expend this fund. All those in favor of Article 13, let's hold your cards up, please. I gotta come around and count, so bear with me, please. Thank you. All those opposed, please hold your cards up. Thank you. $54 yes, 3 no. Article 13 passes. Article 14, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400, excuse me, $400 to be expended by the trustees of the trust fund for expenses related to attending conferences and training as deemed necessary by the trustees. Majority vote required. Need a motion to accept this as read?
Motion.
Motion, Charles Statham.
I'll second it.
Second, Chris. Questions or discussion? Okay. Article 14, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $400 to be expended by the trustees of the trust fund for expenses related to attending conferences and training as deemed necessary by the trustees. Majority vote required. All those in favor of Article 14 as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? No. Article 14 passes. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $800 to be expended by the Conservation Commission in connection with its activities for such conservation purposes as set forth in RSA 36-A at the discretion of the Conservation Commission. Motion to accept this as read?
Motion.
Motion, Ellie Murray.
Second.
Second, Chris Bassler. Questions or comments, discussion? Please state your name, sir.
George Morrow.
Thank you.
I'd like the selectmen to review the RSA 36A. It's their responsibility to appoint the Conservation Commission. And one of the first lines says it'll be from 3 to 5 members. We currently just have 1 member.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. Article 15, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate $800 to be expended by the Conservation Commission in connection with its activities for such conservation purposes as set forth in RSA 36-capital letter A and at the discretion of the Conservation Commission. All those in favor of Article 15 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those are opposed? Okay. 15 passes. Article 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $134,000 to be placed into the following expendable trust funds and capital reserve funds to come from 2016 general taxation. Selectmen recommend this appropriation. Fire truck, $15,000. Highway equipment and vehicle, $15,000. Police cruiser, $9,000. Property reevaluation, $10,000. Town bridges fund, $10,000. Road paving, $50,000. Fire department site, $15,000. Webster Library Trust, $10,000. Need a motion to accept this as read?
Motion.
I'll second.
Second. Motion from Ellie Murray, second Steve Davis. Questions? State your name, please.
Charles Stater.
Thank you.
This would be the amendment that I was talking about. Based on our conversation on Articles 11 and 12, I don't see the need for plow trucks and highway equipment going away for the town in any time in the foreseeable future. So when these leases are over and these trucks have to be replaced, I don't want the answer from the selectmen to be, well, we didn't have the money to buy those trucks. That's to be the sole purpose for having to lease a truck and having to bond a truck. So what I would like to do is I'd like to amend the article to add just those rough numbers of the lease payments. So to change the highway equipment from $15,000 to $55,000, which is the $30,000 and the $25,000 in round numbers, which would make the full article $174,000.
You have that writing jumps in. Thank you.
So, $40,000. Isn't that hard a second?
I need a couple of minutes. I gotta look at something. Please bear with me. I'm sure there was no issue in changing that around by a big amount. I don't know if there was a cap or not on that. And I can't find anything, so. Have an amendment to Article 16. The amendment reads to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $174,000 to be placed into the following expendable trust funds and capital reserve funds to come from 2016 general taxation. Fire truck, $15,000. Highway equipment vehicle, $55,000. Police cruiser, $9,000. Property reappraisal, $10,000. Bridge fund, $10,000. Road paving, $50,000. Fire department site, $15,000. Webster Library Trust. Need a motion to accept the amendment as read. Motion. Charles Stater. Need a second? Thank you. Marina Riley Collette, correct? Thank you. Okay, we can discuss this now. Chris?
Yeah. So the select board does not agree with purchasing these vehicles. We have the lease with the option to purchase now. And after the time of that lease, we can check to purchase them if they're in good running conditions. And we were talking about the truck being down for 8 days or 8 weeks or whatever before. That will all come out of the fund to fix these vehicles. So as select board, we don't agree with purchasing them. I think leasing is a better deal. And we don't agree with bonding either for a truck, as Chip was saying. So we don't agree with this 40,000 extra fund for this.
Thank you. Please step up and identify yourself.
Francis Muzzy.
Thank you.
Steve, I'm going to ask you if you would, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we purchased one of these trucks, it was unexpected.
Correct.
We didn't have the money. You can put all the money you want in the capital reserve fund on page 23, and it isn't going to do any good in an emergency, because that capital reserve on page 23, halfway down, is not an expendable fund. I prefer it not to be an expendable fund, don't get me wrong. But the fact remains, when you end up with an emergency, this lease agreement makes good sense. If they knew they were going to need a new truck, they'd come back and ask the town to raise and appropriate that amount of money and take it out of the capital reserve fund. It's already been set up. We don't need to put $55,000 in when we won't solve any emergency anyway.
Thank you. Okay. Identify yourself.
O'Reilly Collette.
Thank you.
I support the motion to amend precisely because if funds are raised in a regular and predictable fashion for the purpose of purchasing new trucks or trucks verified to be in good condition, then those trucks will not be failing because they will be purchased and replaced in a regular and predictable fashion. This is superior to being at the whim of the leasing agreements and the costs that are placed into leasing agreements by leasing companies in general. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please step up and identify yourself.
Doug Campbell. Just maybe Selectman might be able to answer this question is, how much does one of these trucks generally cost brand new if you just take cash and go out and buy it? About 200,000?
200 to 250, depending on the model.
250, so even at putting in a capital reserve, 50,000, we're still looking at 4 to 5 years to be able to buy one of these trucks outright.
Right.
And then it's like, then we have the option, or they have the problems of maintenance, and if something does catastrophic happen with one of the trucks, and it's no longer a warranty, we also then have that big expense on our hands. And I point this out merely as something else to consider when we're arguing a lease versus purchase. Personally, I prefer purchase myself. I've got a truck that's almost 13, 14 years old, and I just maintain it well. That doesn't always happen with public vehicles because, let's face it, as much as we like to think our employees and stuff like that take good care of our equipment, they're not always good at taking care of equipment, and they're not always good at operating equipment. So sometimes a lease would be better from that point of view.
Thank you. Charles Stater again, please. Come up. Already got you.
If we're buying a new truck, we're going to have it under warranty, I would assume. So the lease is, you know, at 55,000 a year, we're going to be coming up with 200,000 every 4 years. I'm hoping that the trucks will last longer than that, but we can replace a $200,000 truck every 4 years. Which, if we're going to be doing 5-year leases and we don't purchase them after the lease, we're just turning in and we continue to pay that lease payment, at this point, that's what we're paying. We're paying $55,000 a year to the lease company. And we have no option of getting out of that at this point. Because as Chris said, their only option was to lease. And so the purpose of my amendment is to give us that option.
Thank you. Yes, please, Chris.
So like I said before, these leases are with the option to purchase. Or we own it, I'm sorry. These leases, at the end of our lease, we own. So we can keep these vehicles for X amount of time if they deem roadworthy. And what you gotta figure too, going back to we're not leasing just a regular Toyota on the road. These trucks are out in the worst possible conditions, that's why they're out there. It's either raining, snowing, salt, whatever. So they are out under the worst conditions. And it just doesn't make the sense to purchase when we can lease these with the option that we own them anyways.
Thank you. Anybody else? Please identify yourself.
Kevin Kay.
Thank you.
It's not a bad idea to up the capital reserve fund for the highway trucks. And I think even with the purpose of that, we could actually even make the lease payments with the increase in the capital reserve fund. But I don't think we're gonna come up with a solution here today of whether or not we buy or lease. I think that's something that we need to seriously look at when that time comes. So if you wanted to fund a little bit more in that line item, I think would be okay. We'll get a hard time swallowing the 55,000, I think.
Thank you. Anybody else? Racing to the microphone.
Frank Casco.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say Kevin made the most sense on that.
Okay, thank you.
Paul Davis again. Whether I'm for or against raising the bounty, I read this article, it says heavy equipment and vehicle. It is on the impression that this young fellow over here is on the impression it's going to go for a dump truck. It doesn't necessarily have to go for a dump truck. It can go for a grader, or it can go for a backhoe, or a set of plows. It says heavy equipment, whole different ball of wax in the dump truck. I just want to point this out, that if we do raise and appropriate that sum of money, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go to a dump truck.
Thank you. Please identify yourself.
Renee Sullivan.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. When you were talking about the end of the lease and we had the option to keep the truck, is there a payment due to keep it, or it's paid for and we just decide whether we want it?
Paid for.
Okay, thank you.
State your name.
Kevin Kay.
Thank you.
I don't know if the motion and the second would reconsider withdrawing those and maybe lowering that amount so we can put this.
I think what we need to do is run this through like this. If it fails, we can do another amendment. The correct way to go about it.
I make a motion that we vote on the amendment.
Thank you.
We're gonna vote. Okay, we're voting on the amendment. Passes, we go to an amended article. Fails, go back to the original article and the amounts listed there. The amendment we're going to vote on, number 16, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $174,000 to be placed into the following expendable trust funds and capital reserve funds to come from 2016 general taxation. Fire truck, $15,000. Heavy equipment and vehicle, $55,000. Police cruiser, $9,000. Property reappraisal, $10,000. Bridge fund, $10,000. Road paving, $50,000. Fire department site, $15,000. Webster Library Trust, $10,000. All those in favor, I think I'll probably want to see a show of hands. All those in favor of this amendment, please hold your cards up. Okay. All those opposed? Okay. The amendment has failed. Just a sec, please. I think that was you, Francis? Okay, you need to have it in writing so I can read it.
Move the motion. Move it to the motion.
What was that?
He just wants to move it to vote.
You want to move it to vote? Okay, need a second to move it? Second. Okay. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, move to vote. Article 16, To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $134,000 to be placed into the following expendable trust funds and capital reserve funds to come from 2016 general taxation. Selectmen recommend this appropriation. Fire truck, $15,000. Highway equipment and vehicle, $15,000. Police cruiser, $9,000. Property reevaluation, $10,000. Town bridges, $10,000. Road paving, $50,000. Fire department site, $15,000. Webster Library Trust, $10,000. All those in favor of Article 16 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed, passes on the voice vote. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $89,750 for the purpose of disposal and hauling of solid waste and associated costs of maintenance for the town transfer station to come from 2016 general taxation. The selectmen recommend this appropriation. Need a motion to accept this article as read?
Listen, make a motion to accept.
Motion was you.
You get a second, and then you can amend it.
And a second, please?
I'll second.
I heard some. Okay.
After you have your discussion.
Statement from select board, please.
So the transfer station has been something that we've been looking at for a couple months now. And as you guys can see, the cost just went up. So in looking at this, we decided to get more estimates and quotes from different companies than the one that we're currently using. Also, I spent a lot of time, went through a lot of places, and where we are losing the most money, and I mean an excessive amount, is on our zero sort. So I have a proposal here that I've come up with that the select board agrees with. I'm just going to go over a few numbers so you guys kind of get where I'm going with this. So right now, as of this year, January 1st, our zero sort doubled in our price per ton to get rid of it. The reason it did this is because fuel costs are so low right now that it actually is not cost effective to recycle, especially plastics. So we're going to go over just the money part of this. So for our zero sort alone, we rent two 40-yard containers. They're $100 each. When we get those pulled, it's an average of $340. We average about 2 tons, so we fill both of those up at least once a month. So if we do the quick math, it's $200 to rent them, average of $340 a pull, we're at $680. Our price per ton went from 46 cents, which made sense, to 75 cents per ton. So if you add $75 per ton, excuse me. So if you add that up, that's another $150. So our zero sort right now is costing us $1,030 on average. The town of Wentworth, the town of Warren has gotten rid of their zero sort, and so has many little towns in this area. The trash compactor that we use, that we throw all our kitchen, all our just regular bags in, we have found that we've been pulling that on average between 8 and 10 tons. We're actually a little bit low on that. That comes to about 1,500 PSI. We can actually pull that between 1,800 and 2,000 PSI. So if we got rid of our zero sort, not only would we save the money, but those extra 2,000 pounds of waste right now would go into our trash compactor with 0% increase in doing so. Listen, I recycle, my whole family recycles, and I know a lot of people do. On average in this town, 50% of the people in this town recycle. What I recommend is that we recycle our aluminum cans and our bottles, like beer, soda, things like that. We average about $100 in savings with our aluminum cans. Now we're actually making money. Warren not only got rid of their zero sort, they got rid of their C&D. So the big dumpster that we can throw solid waste in, they got rid of that altogether. They also charge their folks $1 per 13-gallon bag and $2 for the big black ones. So now they're charging their people to get rid of waste. I don't recommend that. I don't want that. But what I guarantee is if we get rid of our zero sort, we will save at least $10,000 this year. So that budget of $89,000 really could be $79,000. We have a vote on Tuesday. We're probably going to go with a different company. If we're talking about being good stewards of the environment, and which recycling is, right now it's not cost effective because you can make plastic for a lot less than you can recycle it for. So if we just go by pollutants and carbon footprint alone, we've got a truck right now that drives from Littleton, big diesel truck, comes down and picks up our stuff, brings it back to Bethlehem. Once it gets to Bethlehem, it goes into a bigger container and it goes to Rutland, Vermont. Okay, so we're not doing too good on that. So we actually pollute more by recycling right now than we would to get rid of our zero sort. So if we're just being good stewards of the community and the environment, it doesn't make sense. And I know this sounds odd, and I recycle, but it does not make sense to recycle right now. Next year it might, the years after that might, and we have money in our fund for getting and picking up new, like a new compactor and things that can offset that if we revisit this. So we can go about this a couple different ways. We can have a motion from the floor to amend this and just say that we're going to spend 79 this year. And I guarantee we'll probably have more savings because there's a couple other things that we want to do with this as well. Or we can vote in the 89,000 and when we have the savings next year, roll them right back in so there's less taxes next year. Doesn't matter in which way we do this, but I'm guaranteeing if we get rid of zero sort, that we're going to save $10,000.
Are you going to make an amendment, or are you?
No,
you're not.
I am.
Well, I got to have it in writing, and I've got somebody up, I've got a pile of people up at the microphone.
Go ahead.
So some people in the chat. Please identify yourself.
Francis Muzzy, when I see somebody has stepped up to the plate and tried to save the town money by doing an experiment that's a little bit different, I hate to bind their hands by restricting them to something when the test is incomplete. I would like to see the article left as it is, $89,750, with a good understanding that any savings below that amount will be rolled over the following year until the test is complete.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next person, please. State your name.
Craig Pascal.
Thank you.
This is the second time I've heard Chris talk about this plan, one at a selectmen's meeting, and thank you for looking into this. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next contestant.
Renee Sullivan.
Thank you.
I like the idea of saving money. Is there a way we could do, rather than the zero sort, do more recycling? You know, I'm just thinking of cardboard. It seems a shame to now go back to putting all that stuff into the, into a landfill somewhere and all that. So I know you said aluminum cans and bottles. What else could we do something with that wouldn't be throwing it just in the dumpster?
And I agree. So one of the things that we've looked at is we've looked at a baler. There are some grants to get balers. Balers right now are around $15,000. We do have money in it. If we get a baler, it means everything has to be under roof, so we would actually have to make or just refine what we have. So we have been looking into getting a baler. If we get a baler, we can bale cardboard. We can bale plastic. We can bale all these things. So that would be a step in the right direction for sure. And we just kind of have to figure out, it's going to take time to add on to one of those buildings and do different stuff like that. But this is the things that we're thinking of, because a baler, cardboard used to make a lot of money. Right now it's not making much, but it might come back. So anywhere we can save is what we're going to look at.
Stick around. Okay. Yes, state your name.
Just, Debbie Chelsea, just so I'm clear, because I'm not, you are suggesting that we totally get rid of recycling, except for aluminum or glass?
Correct.
And where would those go?
We actually have people come and pick them up for us, and we make on average about $100 a month right now.
Right now, they go into the zero sort though,
Well,
right?
we actually have a thing, there's labeled aluminum cans, which most of you guys have seen. Not everybody throws in there, but when everybody does, we can make more money.
So all of this is gonna go back to a landfill?
Okay, one thing that I did find out, I reached out to Pete's Rubbish Removal, I reached out to Witcher and a couple other places. What happens now? When I told you our stuff goes all the way to Bethlehem, if it gets to Bethlehem, they determine it's dirty or for some reason, guess where that goes? They dump it into the landfill now anyways. And so probably some of ours that are going to recycle actually goes in there. I know, I'm not saying it makes sense, but.
Next up, state your name, please.
Marina Riley Collette. First of all, I have to say, one, you're absolutely correct that the carbon footprint of driving heavy diesel trucks around with this stuff and the fact that a lot of it that is dirty or inadequately cleaned, simply thrown out, means that recycling has always been a comparatively zero-sum game. The main concern with not recycling plastics actually is the consequence of them getting in the environment, impacting the fish and the wildlife. I think in this circumstance that the idea proposed is, however, certainly the best option for the town. And my main thing is that in the longer term, looking at the baler, that rather than reduce the budget from 89 to 79,000, we should reduce it to, we should split the difference, reduce it to 84 and put the other 5,000 into a fund for buying the balers and other equipment needed to go to a more sensible recycling strategy in the future.
And I agree with what is said. We actually have that money in there now. We really don't need to appropriate anything at this time.
All right, then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Stated, I just wanted to give the townspeople a chance to say whether they wanted that amendment or not, so I have the amended article to not cost 10,000.
Down to 79?
Yeah.
Thank you. Have an amendment? Is there any more? We'll do our amendment, we can discuss that along as well. Okay, this is to get it onto the floor. This is the amendment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $79,750 for the purpose of disposal and hauling of solid waste and associated costs of maintenance for the town transfer station come to 2016. General taxation. Motion to accept it as read. I'll state them. And a second? Second. Hey, what's your last name? Help me, please. I need that. I need that, but, you know. Anyway, motion on the floor, discussion on this, No, go ahead, Fred, come on, you were up, I'll let you get up here.
As I mentioned before, this is a good faith attempt to save money. We had a good faith attempt several years ago to save money when we went to zero stock. But when the figures all came in and finalized, even though we didn't lose money in the process, we didn't save money either. Therefore, while this is in the experimental stage, with a pure hope that they'll come back with $10,000 surplus in this account, I'd like to see it stay at $89,750 until they've got good, concrete evidence of what the figures will be in the future.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, let's vote the amendment. This is the vote to lower the amount. Okay, this is only an amendment. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $79,750 for the purpose of disposal and hauling of solid waste and associated costs made for the town transfer station to come from 2016 general taxation. All in favor of the amendment as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed? No. Pat, it fails on a voice. I have moved the vote from Francis Muzzy, a second, to somebody, okay. Article 17, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $89,750 for the purpose of disposal and hauling of solid waste and associated costs of maintenance for the town transfer station to come from 2016 general taxation.
Wow, tough.
God, I hate these things. Yeah. Come from 2016 general taxation. All those in favor of Article 17 is read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed, Article 17 passes. I need 5 minutes. Everybody take a 5-minute break. Okay, there, now I've had my opinion. Article 18. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $78,104. Or if I knew how to fix the microphone, I'd do it. I really would.
I can fix it.
My gosh, if somebody can fix this thing, come on up. I'll stop everything right
Got
here.
about 500 dogs outside the door.
Okay.
Shut the volume on the one out here off until somebody comes up to talk.
Let's go.
I don't know. Let's try. So far, so good. Okay. Yeah. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $78,104 for the maintenance of the police department for the ensuing year, of which $14,300 is to come from the unassigned fund balance, and the remainder to come from 2016 general taxation. Need a motion to accept this as read?
I'll make a motion.
Motion, Karaketti.
I'll second.
Yeah, PC. There we go. Yeah. And second from, who was that? Thanks, Chris. Almost as hard to spell. Okay, we do have Chief Trotters here, can also help answer questions, although not a resident of the town. If you have questions, does anybody have a problem with him speaking out or speaking to them? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Oh, that just doesn't seem right.
What are your hours?
It is a question. And although you're not up, I would entertain it. What are your hours, please, Chief? Speak loud.
Unpublished.
Tuesday nights, I'm at the town office at 5 o'clock until the select board meeting and after.
Okay.
The hours vary.
Come on up, Wally, please. Chief Crocker, please. I knew I'd get you up here.
That's okay.
Yeah, okay.
For those that don't know me, my name is Wally Trotter. I'm your new police chief in town. Thank you for coming out today. My hours, we do have office hours on Tuesday evenings, which is the same time that the select board has their meetings. I'm there prior to the select board meeting and afterwards as well. The other hours are different throughout the course of the week. I average usually between 15 and 30 hours a week down here. A lot of people don't know that, but that's because my hours change. They're not consistent. The Tuesday evening hours are, however. I can tell you that the Wentworth Police Department has two different contact phone numbers, the one for Grafton County Dispatch and the direct line that goes into the office. You can reach me if you need to, or send an email, and I will get back to you. If it's an emergency, we also have the Grafton County Sheriff's Department and State Police to take care of the emergencies of the community if I'm not here. So to answer your question, Tuesday nights is the best time to get in touch with me. Throughout the course of the rest of the week, I'm usually here anywhere between 15 and last week was actually 30 hours on top of my full-time job up north. I try to spend as much time here as I can.
Anybody else with a question? Feel free to leave the round of applause, that's fine. Okay, questions, state your name, please.
Marina Rodcott. Chief Schwab, do you support this budget?
Do I support this budget?
Yeah, do you feel you need more money? Do you feel you can get by with less money? What's your opinion on the budget, since it's your operating budget for the?
I think that, well, I presented the budget, so obviously I support it. I think that in fairness to the community, knowing what last year's budget was, the operating budget that was presented, and knowing that there are increases that I as a department head have no control over, in order for me to present a budget that I'm not going to be concerned about, where there's going to be costs that I'm not going to be able to pay for at the end of this year, this is the budget that I feel comfortable in presenting. Now, having said that, I also want to bring to your attention that there's over $14,000 that's being put towards this budget, even though there's an increase. So realistically, when you stop and think about it, the budget is significantly lower than what last year's budget was when it was presented. But that's because of the monies that was turned back in by the department. Having said that, because I haven't been here for a full year and not knowing what the overall needs of the community is going to be, I certainly can't say that next year I'm going to be 14 plus or 14 minus. So this budget, I have a clear conscience in presenting, knowing that what needs the community does have that I'm aware of can be met and will be met.
Thank you.
Okay. Something to add, Chris? Yes, please.
So, first off, what I want to say is we did have a cost savings between Chief K and Chief Trout of $14,000. So I definitely want to say thank you for that. And we had an almost seamless transition between chiefs, which does not happen. To go to show you the dedication of Kevin and Wally and how this was able to come to be, we had no gap where we didn't have service. Wally's a pretty modest guy, but he's not telling you as well as he's also on call. So he has been taking those calls and been able to show up. And you guys have all seen him around town. He's in our school. He's doing a wonderful job. To come from Haverhill and to come here, he's super qualified, and we're very lucky. He's taken us under his wing and really support this community. If you want to just see, the difference in our operating budget is about $3,919. When he says there was no control over it, the increase in prosecution fees for when we have to go to court went up by $1,000. $784 to be exact. Our dispatch fees went from $5,000 to $6,700. $1,700 more. And increase in ammunition. As everybody knows, with Obama in office, ammo increased. So that was another increase. Maintenance and repairs for the cruiser, we kept that at a minimum. So it's an almost break even. The only increase is the ones that we have zero ability to change. And I think they did a great job. Thanks, guys.
Anything else from anybody else? State your name.
Chris Pasco.
Yes.
Based on what I said earlier, with Mid-State getting over $300,000 to treat drug addiction and a pot dispensary going on down in Plymouth, things are going to get worse before they get better. People traveling through to and from.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, without further ado. Article 8, thank you, Chief. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $78,104 for the maintenance of the police department for the ensuing year, of which $14,300 comes from the unassigned fund balance, the remainder to come from 2016 general taxation. All those in favor of Article 18 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those are opposed? Article passes. Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $850 for the costs and expenses associated with animal and pest control. Entertain a motion to accept this article as read.
Motion.
Motion, Steve Davis.
Second.
The second, Paul Davis. That's what I'm putting down.
Sounds reasonable.
Questions, comments?
My name is Riley Clark.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'm of course a newcomer to Wentworth, but I was born and raised in a very rural area of Washington State, and for the most part, when it came to pests and animals, we rural people can deal with them ourselves in the ways they need to. We know how to, and you can ask a neighbor if you don't. And I just kind of question this tiny amount of money that seems that if there was a pest that was impacting farming, that it would be a considerable additional cost to deal with, and therefore the kinds of money that this 850 is being spent for is either going to be spent on things that we don't really need it for, or else would be entirely inadequate to some kind of crop pest. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
Kevin Kay, I believe I can answer her question.
Sure.
The vast majority of the monies for animal control is for dog issues in the Humane Society. When we have stray dogs turned into the police department, or there's a nuisance dog that needs to get taken by the police department, they go to the Humane Society. The Humane Society charges us a fee for room and board that can be up to 7 days at like $25 a day. So that's where the vast majority of this goes. Some years they only use $300, other years we've used $1,400.
Thank you. Statement? Yes.
So the only thing I'd like to add to that, Chief K, is exactly right, except cats are on as well. So it's not just dogs, it's cats. One thing though that I do want to point out this year, we bring all of, well, the animals go to the Upper Valley Humane Society. It used to be an open door policy where anybody from the town of Wentworth could bring an animal to that shelter. The selectmen didn't love that because if it was a town resident that brought it from another town, well, that's costing the town money. So what we did this year on top of it is we amended the contract that we have with them, and it has to go, the animals can only come from our animal control officer, a police officer, or our chief. So if anybody out there has an issue with dogs and cats, definitely call it in, and they're the ones that are going to bring it there. Because we have an open-ended bill from last year. Some cats and stuff were dropped off. We had no idea. The old statute read that you only have to be a town of resident of Wentworth to drop animals off. That's not so anymore. It has to go through the animal control officer or a police officer now.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Article 19, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $850 for costs and expenses associated with animals pest control. All in favor of Article 19 as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed? Article passes. I'd like to just take one quick second to thank Rich Young for coming up and setting everything up for us this morning. Thank you, Rich. We really appreciate it. Article 20, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,500 for operating expenses for ambulance services. Need a motion to accept Article 20 as read? Motion. Motion, Steve Davis.
I'll second it.
Please state your name.
Charles Stan.
Thank you.
So I think we've settled into this for a few years now, where we're spending $20,000 for the ambulance operating expenses. We still have that $20,000 in the ambulance capital reserve. Is that dead money that we need to address? I realize we can't address it this year, but
that money is dead money. We can't address it. For maybe in a year or two, we can repurpose it to a capital reserve fund. I can't say any more than that.
Anybody else? Questions or statements? Article 20. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $21,500 for operating expenses for ambulance services. All those in favor of Article 20 as read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed, article's passed.
There we go.
Article 21. To see if the town will vote to increase the net income allowance for the elderly exemptions from property tax, and the town is provided for in RSA 72:39- small letter B. The question to be voted on as required by RSA 72:39- small letter B is as follows, comma 1 is as follows. Shall we modify the elderly exemptions from the property tax in the town of Wentworth based on assessed value for qualified taxpayers as follows? For a person 65 years of age up to 75 years, $10,000. For a person 75 years of age up to 80 years, $15,000. For a person 80 years of age and older, $25,000. To qualify, the person must have been a New Hampshire resident for at least 3 years, own the real estate individually or jointly, or if the real estate is owned by such person's spouse, they must have been married for at least 5 years. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $17,000, or if married, a combined net income of less than $26,000, and own net assets. Net assets. I think that's supposed to be assets.
Mr. Moderator, come on now.
Assets, put that in. Not in excess of $45,000, excluding the value of the person's residence. Comment: if the majority of those voting on the question vote yes, the elderly exemptions shall take effect on April 1st, 2016. Need a motion to accept this as read? Motion, Francis Muzzy.
I'll second.
It says asses on my sheet. Who seconded that? Does it say that in the town report?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if that was just a ploy to get me or not. Anyway,
You can consider Article 2.
comments or something? Yes, Mr. Muzzy.
Does that need an amendment?
No, I just added a letter, I think we're good, thanks.
I'm the one that's guilty for making this possible in your warrant here today. I presented the proposal to the selectmen, and they accepted it without petition, for which I want to thank you. The only real change in this from what it has been in the past is in the bold print at the bottom. In 1997, a similar warrant article appeared, and it used the absolute minimum numbers allowable by law, and we're almost 20 years since. These figures of 17,000, 26,000, and 45,000 are the only figures that have actually been changed, and they represent somewhere in the magnitude, compared to the 97 figure, a 25% increase. I know several people that I believe to be qualified for the elderly exemption that aren't qualified under the present rules and regulations because the numbers are so low. It would be a shame to continue with those numbers of 20 years ago, the way prices have increased and things. I thank you, Selectmen, for putting this on the warrant article, and I hope you all will pass it.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Yes.
I might have missed what Francis said, because I probably wasn't paying attention. Where did these numbers come from for the income? Where did we come up with 17 and 26?
I guess since I presented the numbers to the selectmen, I should have to explain it, but I don't have my 1997 book here. But they're roughly 25% higher than what they were in the 1997 book. I'm going to tell you the figures, subject to a little bit of error, but the figures was 13,200 instead of the 17,000. I'm going to tell you that instead of the 26,000 it was, this is where I'm going to be the worst wrong, 23,200. And I know what the 45,000 figure was 35,000, roughly a 25% increase. And then I rounded off so you weren't having something like 17,231 or something like that.
Another question?
I do. Yeah. Is it possible that we could increase those numbers so that more of the elderly could qualify? Those income amounts are really low. I mean, high school kids make $17,000 a year. If somebody's 75 and retired and they're only getting Social Security and...
It would need to be in the form of a written amendment. Okay, that would answer your question. Mr. Moses, you have a
revisit it again next year, possibly?
Not knowing the impact on the town, mind you, I didn't dare to go any higher than this. We don't know how many more will be qualified, and until such time as you know the impact, these figures can be changed any year. They're the only figures that can be changed in the whole damn RSA, but I would encourage you to stick with these until we find out we can do better.
Deb, would you like to do a written amendment, or would you like to leave it as it is and see what next year brings, or?
Oh, I don't have time to research it now, obviously, but, you know, that's, I think it's extremely low,
Okay.
and I think that not...
Please come up, Deb, please come up if you got more to say.
You're raising too much, I might qualify.
I just think it's extremely low. If you look at somebody on Social Security getting $2,000 a month, that's not enough to live on, but it's $24,000 a year to qualify.
You want to amend it, or would you like to do a wait and see what next year brings and have your facts and figures with you then?
What is this year?
Well, this can be changed, it can be addressed each year, or I would need an amendment with the changed figures that you'd like to propose.
Ms. Margaret, is there any motion on the floor?
The only thing we've got right now is the motion to accept. We have nothing on the floor at this point.
Been made and seconded.
It's been made and seconded.
Motion to move.
Motion to move the vote. Second. Motion to move.
Yeah, I'll hold on to research it.
Okay. Motion to move seconded. Kevin Kay. Discussion's closed. Got a motion to move the vote. Article 21, to see if the town will vote to increase the net income allowance for the elderly exemptions from property tax in the town as provided for in RSA 72:39- small letter B. Question to be voted on as required by RSA 72:39/ small letter B. One is as follows. Shall we modify the elderly exemptions from property tax in the town of Wentworth based on assessed value for qualified taxpayers to be as follows? For a person 65 years of age up to 75 years, 10,000. For a person 75 years of age up to 80 years, 15,000. For a person 80 years of age and older, 25,000. To qualify, the person must have been a New Hampshire resident for at least 3 years, own real estate individually or jointly, or if the real estate is owned by such person's spouse, they must have been married for at least 5 years. In addition, the taxpayer must have a net income of not more than $17,000, or if married, a combined net income of less than $26,000, and own net assets not in excess of $45,000, excluding the value of a person's residence. All those in favor of this article is read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed. Article 21 passes on votes. Article 22. See if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,060 for the Parks and Recreation for the general maintenance of parks, including the Common, Library, Riverside Park, and Hamilton Memorial Field, to come from 2016 general taxation. Motion to accept this is read? Sure. Paul Davis.
Okay.
A second from Paul Davis Sr. Questions, comments? Article 22, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $5,060 for the Parks and Recreation for the general maintenance of parks, including the Common, Library, Riverside Park, Hamilton, and Hamilton Memorial Field, to come from 2016 general taxation. All in favor of Article 22 is read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those are opposed, article passes. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,000 for the purchase and display of fireworks for the 250th Town of Wentworth celebration. Motion to accept this is read? Somebody put a hand up. There we go. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I had a lot of voices. And I singled out a motion from Jeff Ames and a second from Francis Muzzy. Discussion, questions? Craig Pasco, I assume you were going to speak?
I'd like to speak in favor of this.
Okay.
Back in January, in this room, the committee formed to celebrate 250 years of Wentworth history. Filled this room with the laughter of children and the wild applause of adults and children alike. We'd like to do that again with a fireworks display. We have Russ McNolly of Hellscape tentatively scheduled September 24th, and he told me that he could give us a display that you've never seen up in the North Country. $5,000 to $6,000 worth for $4,000. And it could be a real blast. We've had permission of the Meads to use the airstrip. Russ went down there and said this would be the ideal spot. So that would be really great.
Thank you. Anybody else got any questions or comments? Article 23, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,000 for the purchase and display of fireworks for the 250th Town of Wentworth celebration. All in favor of Article 23 is read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Article passes. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $39,456 for the Webster Memorial Library expenses, $2,125 to come from the library income, $785 to come from the unassigned fund balance, and the remaining sum of $36,546 to come from 2016 general taxation. Motion to accept this is read. Motion, Doug Campbell, for a different name. Much shorter than Bassett White, I'd like to point out. And a second from Paul Davis. I still can't spell Karakatty, so. Questions or discussion? Up to the microphone, please. I can probably spell spaghetti. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $39,456 for the Webster Memorial Library expenses, $2,125 to come from the library income, $785 to come from the unassigned fund balance, and the remaining sum of $36,546 to come from 2016 general taxation. All those in favor of Article 24 is read, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. Article 25. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,200 for the maintenance and expenses associated with the Wentworth Historical Society Museum and the grounds on which it is situated. A portion of the sum will be used towards the planned 250th celebration events. Motion to accept this is read.
Motion.
Motion, Ellie Murray.
Second.
Second from Paul Davis, C. Questions or comments? State your name.
Craig Pascal. As the treasurer of the Historical Society, year after year we come into town to ask for $1,200, with the exception of the year before last, I believe. And that goes into our general fund for maintenance and pay the bills and whatnot. This year, this money will be used solely for the 250th events, such as mailing, advertising, porta potties, perhaps in September, we have a parade and antique car show. So this money will be spent for whatever we need, vendors and that. So it is not going into the general fund, it will be used for the 250.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Item 25. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,200 for the maintenance and expenses associated with the Wentworth Historical Society Museum and the grounds on which it is situated. A portion of the sum will be used towards the planned 250th celebration events. All those in favor of Article 25 as read, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed, ayes have it. Article 26. To see if the town will vote to change the Town Hall Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, previously established in 2000, to the Town Hall Expendable Capital Reserve Fund, and further to appoint the selectmen as agents to expend from this capital reserve fund. This will require a 2/3 majority vote. Need a motion to accept this article as read?
I'd make motion.
Second.
Motion, Steve Davis, and a second, Ellen. Was that you?
Yes.
Questions or discussion? Okay, we're gonna have to do this with a show of hands. Oh, I'm so close.
I just don't want to home, that's all.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the maintenance and the repair town hall capital reserves?
Got no clue. What page are you on?
23, there's two different funds there.
You have an answer? Oh, good.
Maintenance, capital reserve fund is for normal maintenance type of activities. The other one we're considering, we're gonna get a steering committee together, the next board will. We wanna talk about putting a surge, you're gonna link into the historical museum surge system, water system. The road outside is going to be, in the next year or two, repaved. It'll be a good time to dig up the road, lay surge and water lines in, and put it in the side of the room where, as you go into the antique area, there's a, used to be the town clerk's office. It'd be a nice area to use. We still got floors to do, which would be rebuilt. We gotta do something with the chimney systems. I've done some patching repairs on the old pipes that are holes all through them. We gotta update some systems. That's all going to take going out to bids and work with the selectmen, coming back and forth, and working with the wheelers steering town hall committee, which Ellie is part of, Francis is part of, Common Cause is part of, and working with them to come up with a nice way to restore it at the lowest cost possible in the building and keep it maintained properly. That's a long answer, but give you an idea of what we're trying to do.
Anybody else? Questions, comments on this?
Craig Pascal, I'd just like to say, Steve, thanks for trying to make the town hall come alive again, and it could be your legacy.
Thank you. One a minute.
Anybody else? Article 26, to see if the town will vote to change the Town Hall Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, previously established in 2000, to the Town Hall Expendable Capital Reserve Fund, and further to appoint the selectmen as agents to expend from this capital reserve fund. This requires a 2/3 vote. We'll have to do a show of cards. All those in favor of Article 26 as read? Wait, I got to count. Please deal with me. Thank you. All those opposed? $50 yes, 0 no. Article 26 passes. Article 27. To see if the town will vote to place a question on the state election ballot to change the hours at which the polls shall open as allowed by RSA 659:4- small letter A by approving the following. Polling hours in the town of Wentworth are now 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. for every election except the town, just so you're all aware. Shall we place a question on the state election ballot to change polling hours so that the polls shall open at 11 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. for all regular state elections beginning in 2017. Need a motion to accept this as read?
Make a motion.
Motion Paul Davis, and a second, I think I saw your hand up. Questions or comments or statements? Up to the microphone, please.
Marina Riley Collette. This is something that really goes to the heart of American democracy, to be quite honest. We have an issue with engagement of voters, and it stretches beyond any kind of partisan considerations. Fundamentally, restricting the hours of ballot access is bad in a most profound way. When people are working and they are contributing to the economy, and they have to meet rapidly variable schedules in the modern world to successfully execute the duties of their employment, and because employers do no longer schedule a typical easy schedule for them, it becomes profoundly difficult for someone to easily make it to the polls, especially in a rural area where someone's job may be considerably far away from their polling place. I feel that this measure to restrict the hours of access to the polls can only be part of a trend to discourage voter participation and engagement, and that we should respond by offering, if anything, expanded hours to the polls. We should be doing everything possible to make sure that not even one person find themselves unable to vote as a consequence of the polling place being closed, especially if the person is working irregular hours or otherwise as a productive member of society cannot come forward to the polls during a relatively limited time. Therefore, it is absolutely necessary that we should all oppose this and stand up for making the American democracy in our town as participatory and open as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Sounds good, the reality isn't there. From 8 to 11 a.m. I've been here, Steve's been here, others have been here, and the number of people trickling in is absolutely ridiculous, and we're paying people to be here. Not much, but we're paying people to be here. Taking it down to 11 to 7 keeps it open in the afternoon, early evening hours when people are out of work, and it certainly does not restrict anybody.
Thank you. Next up.
For me, I cannot vote during those hours. I work 10:30 to 7 on a flexible schedule. And Mr. Moderator, how many people were in the last election from 8 to 11 on an average?
The primary?
Yes.
We averaged a person every 2 to 3 minutes up until about 1:15. We had a lull in the action, and then somewhere around 2 o'clock it picked up at roughly the same pace.
So I would advise to keep the hours the same so everyone has a fair chance of getting here.
I'm going to respond to what Francis said. If you impede one person from voting, then it's a bad idea. And he's saying nobody's going to be, the trickle of people was so small. It doesn't matter if it was one person from 8 to 11.
Thank you. Next up.
George Moll. We're not really restricting anybody from voting. They can get an absentee ballot. It's just request it, fill it out and mail it in, and their vote can be counted.
Thank you. State your name.
Donna King. This is to be put on a ballot to decide whether or not to vote for these hours. I highly recommend changing these hours because due to the fact that we have to have the elections at the school, at 8 o'clock in the morning, the children are in this cafeteria and they are having their morning rituals and breakfast, and it's very confusing and it's mayhem from 8 o'clock on. We have a very low voter attendance. We have been keeping track of it until 11 o'clock. Also, we have the same ballot clerks that work long hours that have to be there all day long, and then they have to count the ballots afterwards. Being a small town, we do not have many people working the polls at election time. We have a lot of volunteers, but we also don't have many people. It's a very tiring and long day. And again, we do have absentee ballots that are available at my office, and you can also download them online, an absentee ballot request form. So I just highly recommend that we change these hours, just due to the fact that it is very confusing and very inconvenient with the children around.
Thank you.
Move to vote.
I'm gonna let this lady speak and then we'll move the motion.
To offer the counterpoint to the points that have been given in favor of this proposal, first of all, people may not have the knowledge or ability to reliably receive and return the absentee ballots. Even in a state where I come from, Washington State, where they went to automatic absentee balloting for the entire population, there were still people who had to go in, who had to vote in person because of various issues with their absentee ballot arriving at the county auditor's office, so that there'd be a line out the door at that one polling place that was left in each county. There are people who are not going to be able to exercise that option. There are people who are going to be restricted by the inability to arrive before work if they have to start, at noon at a service job or at 11, as many service jobs have the regular hours, and they need to have their voices heard. This is especially consideration for working people. Elections are infrequent and are a relatively exceptional event where, the effort and sacrifice of the people working the polls are appreciated, but the necessity of that effort and sacrifice as part of making our democracy as participatory as possible is something that it absolutely should be encouraged. And finally, here in this town meeting, we have the absolute example of a fully participatory democracy, and I think it's quite sufficient for us to vote up or down on this, and hopefully to vote it down, because we are the town of Wentworth entire. And it is not necessary to put this to a second vote of the people of the town of Wentworth. Our voices can and should be heard now in town meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. She was on her way up. You want to move the vote?
Yes.
Motion, first to move the vote, Pete Sanum, second on that?
Second.
Second, Mr. Adler. Okay, we're voting on to see if you want to place this question on the ballot. Okay? A yes vote will be to put it on to change, to see about changing the hours. A no vote will be, we will not put it on. Everybody clear with that? Okay. We'll try a voice vote. If that doesn't work, we'll do a show of hands. All right. Article 27, to see if the town will vote to place a question on the state election ballot to change the hours at which the polls shall open as allowed by RSA 659:4 small letter A by approving the following. Polling hours in the town of Wentworth are now 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Shall we place a question on the state election ballot to Change polling hours at the polls shall open at 11 a.m. and close at 7 p.m. for our regular state elections beginning 2017. If you are in favor of placing this question on the ballot, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And if you are opposed?
No.
Well, I think it's a no, but I got to see a show of hands. So, 80's going up, I think. If you're in favor of placing this on the ballot, put your hand up.
Is it undemocratic?
If you are opposed to this being placed on the ballot, please hold your cards up. As I suspected, I have 35 yes votes to place this on the ballot. There's 13 no votes. This article will be placed on the ballot. Article 28. Transact any other business that may legally come before this meeting. Anybody got anything they want to throw out there? I guess it's you, Greg Pasco.
Just want to, some more information about the 250th committee. On April 2nd, veterans living in town or have lived in the town of Wentworth, we're having a breakfast on April 2nd at 9 a.m. at the Wentworth Congregational Church, and that's an appreciation for all those that have served. We'd also like input from those veterans because we're discussing perhaps placing a monument on the common that either has their name or the insignias of the branches, and we just get the input. This has been tried before, it didn't get too far. Also, you might see a lot of these around. This is the events that are planned. And if you don't like to collect paper, I'd just like to quickly go over. May 7th, the Historical Museum opens, as well as we are having house tours. Francis Monkey has written a book on 97 homes, and they'll all be identified with the history. June 12th, Organ and Bells concert. July 3rd, music review. August 6th, Market Day with Duck Race, Family Fun Day. August 20th, garden tours, working on that. September 10th, country gospel concert. The 24th, parade, old cars, antique cars, and fireworks. October 15th, the harvest supper with music. November 1 is the anniversary, the 250th anniversary, and we're trying to put together perhaps another talent show and or at the old town hall, have some readings and just some good historical fun. In addition, Francis has put together a trivia contest, which has already started with the school, and it will start with adults on April. So trivia, and prize money is a $5 entry fee, and the winner gets all of the entry fees. And you'll learn a lot of history. And because he's a teacher, he made it real difficult, so that'll be fun. November 11th, Veterans Day observance, and December 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Christmas tree lighting on the common, and the historical doors will be open.
Thank you much. Mr. Ashway, something to add?
I just want to take this time to say thank you to Steve Davis for all of his years of community service. His selectman time has come to an end this year. I just want to say thank you. In saying that, I also want to welcome Ray Young and introduce him as our new selectman. Ray, if you can stand up.
And the last thing before we get ready to sail, make sure you turn your cards at this meeting. You have something else you'd like to go on before I close the meeting? Oh, I got a whole pile of people lined up. Guess we're not done? Yes. Mr. Mannion?
I brought this up numerous times at meetings, and I'm hoping that we can maybe come to get this figured out. Under the total general municipal operations budget, the line item for total never matches what was voted on the previous year.
Come to a budget meeting. We have 4 of them.
I've tried that too.
Really?
And
We haven't seen it.
just to make it easier for people to read and understand how much is going in, how much is going out, and all so forth, if that can be finalized, because every other article in the book is correct, with the exception of that one budget.
Thank you. Mr. Muzzy?
I made allusion to this before, so now I'll make it in the form of a resolution, which is non-binding of us, that the selectmen make the town reports available at the post office and at Shawnee's if they will make them, if they will accept the opportunity to do so. In the case of Shawnee's, it increases their business, and the post office might be the only one that wouldn't do it because they want you to pay for a postage stamp. I'm not in favor of mailing these things out because it costs the town too much, but I'm in favor of getting them out there through Shawnee's, which is open, what, 14 hours a day? That's the resolution.
That's your resolution. Would you like me to vote on that resolution? Please. Okay, all those in favor of request, this is a non-binding resolution. You can say whatever you want.
We agree with Francis, we're gonna do it next year anyway, so we can vote on it, not, doesn't matter, but we agree, we're gonna put it on.
Okay, you still like that voted on, Mr. Muzzy?
I will get there for sure.
Good enough, I'm good with that. Please step up, identify yourself.
George Morrow.
Yes.
One more item on the 250. We are having regular meetings. We're going to try and have one, we're having one April 4th at 7 p.m. If anybody has any input they'd like to bring in to ideas, things they'd like to see, we'd appreciate anybody else coming in.
Hey, anybody else got anything else? I would entertain a motion to close the meeting. I make the motion. Motion from Paul Davis Sr., second from the King of France. All those in favor of closing the meeting out, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those that are opposed, good enough.